Okay, you guys are good to go.
Here's the GoPro.
I can go back there.
Okay.
Grab mine.
Oh, that's damn good. Well, I put that list.
You might need to talk to the antivirus later. So I want to hold back their funding for next year, to reduce it from 25 to 500. With them telling me if they go over budget, I'm not going to sponsor anything they pay.
You're reducing their money from 2,500 to 500?
Because
You have one, I think.
all they want to do is have a party. There's no way they
So, okay, everybody's here. Everything's
Thank you. You're the man, Rick. You guys are all my paperwork for me.
There's always that kid in class that handed out all the paper.
left the erasers too, or was that before your time?
No, we were in that area. Had the
All right.
machine down the
Kevin,
block.
are you ready for us to get started?
You guys are good to go.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh, you know what? That chair is just blocking everything.
Want me to move that?
Why is it so tall?
Placement. Bad. Yeah, it's horrible. I didn't put it there. It's very tall.
That's a Michael White chair to sit there to take pictures.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise if you're able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for coming, everyone. Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for today's special meeting?
Certainly. Members of the town board, special town board meeting Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. Please be advised that pursuant to section 62 of town law, a special town board meeting will be held both in person in the town board meeting room, Southampton Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, New York.
And video conferencing on Tuesday, September 9th, 2025 at 10 a.m. for the purpose of considering the following. Public hearing to consider all water quality improvement projects proposed for 2025 Community Preservation Fund 20% Water Quality Improvement Plan grant funding. Maria Z. Moore, Supervisor, Town of Southampton, dated September 2nd, 2025. Supervisor Moore.
Here.
Councilwoman McNamara. Councilman Iacilli.
Present.
Councilman Pell.
Present.
Councilman Martell.
Present.
I did. All right, Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the public hearing?
Public hearing number 1, to consider all water quality improvement projects proposed for 2025 Community Preservation Fund 20% Water Quality Improvement Plan grant funding.
Good morning, everyone. I almost said good afternoon because I'm used to being here in the afternoon, but thank you for scheduling this special meeting today to consider all of the water quality grant funding projects for 2025 grant round. We are very lucky to have this revenue. 20% of the CPF revenue on an annual basis is devoted to water quality matters. So in this calendar year, we did have for the water quality budget, $13,674,345. With that information, though, I do want to make everyone aware that this also helps bolster our septic rebate program, which we want to make sure stays very successful. So water quality rebates also come out of this funding, depending on the budget. So we review that kind of in the beginning of the year, and then we just allocated $2 million more to keep that program robust in August. And with the projects here before you today, We do have available funding of $8 million roughly for the projects today, which is left after septic rebates and some town highway projects that we already authorized funding for in August. So the projects before you today are recommended in the amount, so you'll have a recommendation memo from the Water Quality Advisory Board. The recommended amount of funding is $7,328,730.50. So that does comply, and we are complying with the 20% threshold. And we did already fund some projects earlier this year, which also were for the Riverhead School District STP hookup, as well as the town-owned property and village maintained park of Moses Lane Park, which received funding for an IA system of $45,000 earlier this year. So before you today, we do have 13 projects, which we have the applicants here to come in and briefly explain their projects and the request for the water quality funding. So you can rely on the resolution for the basic projects, and then we also have provided a summary sheet packet for you. So that way it's just like a little cut sheet of the project to see where it is and the project merits, as well as any plans that were provided. So those are the same summary sheets that are up on the wall before you here.
And then are the full applications online?
Yes, and then it's very important, all applications are online, so the full application, if there's any questions or materials that the board would like to review or the public, those are all available online for review.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So if you'd like, we could just go in order. I'll introduce the first applicant. So this is the Playhouse, Southampton Playhouse, which is formerly known as the sanitary system upgrade for the Historic Theater. This is a project type of reduction. This is for a large capacity IA system. This would be impacting and improving the water quality for the watershed of Lake Agawam, and the requested funding for this project is $204,915. So, someone present for, sorry, the Playhouse is on Zoom, so I guess if, is it Kevin? If you could let them in, they're presenting via Zoom.
Letting them in.
Okay.
Hello? Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, hi. My name is Jack Heller. I'm the chairman of the board for the Southampton Playhouse. As many of you know, we're a non-for-profit entity that recently came back online a couple of months ago after being closed for about 5 years. We provide not only the theater to the community in the form of first-run features, but we also do lots of community programming. This summer, for example, we hosted about 8 or 9 different free-to-the-community events, from rock concerts in the back of our facility to a full training day with the team that hosts the Mets and teaches the kids. We had about 45 kids come in and learn a bunch of baseball things. So really, our hope is that with a grant like this, it can further our mission to continue to provide first-class access and opportunities to our community, which for the last couple of years we haven't had. Needing the grant, as many of you probably know, having, like myself, been around Southampton for many years, the theater was basically in disrepair and needed a complete overhaul, which was done in service not only of the facility itself needing those upgrades, but providing additional access points for the community, from our oversized parking lot to the community events that I mentioned. And to achieve this as a non-for-profit, we need to always be mindful about how we go about things. And we see this also as a huge benefit, as you'll see in your packets, to the Agawam, water projects and care and stuff like that. And if you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Well, I did see the inside of the theater, and you did a beautiful job with the renovations. So, well
Thank
done.
you. Yeah.
I just
Thank
want to
you.
confirm that you mentioned the grease trap in the application, and that is not included in the request for funding.
The grease trap was in existence, and we just brought it up to code. The funding that we're looking for per the application, I believe, lays out specifically the upgrade of the water system and the sanitary system.
Okay, thank you. Well, I don't have any cards for this public hearing. Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to be heard?
No one on Zoom.
Anyone from the committee wish to speak? All right, well, in that case, I
I will
thank
also
you.
just throw out quickly that if you are a Southampton Village resident, please come by. You get a discount. So just want to make it known that we're trying to
Oh,
provide
nice.
different ways for the community to come and benefit. So
How about the outside, the regular non-village people should get a discount too.
we're hoping to get that grant one day as well. So we're trying as a non-for-profit, but we're definitely going to be expanding it in the next few weeks to months to the full town.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks all.
All right, good morning again. So the next applicant I would like to introduce is the applicant for the patio building. So it's a patio building condominium cooperation in West Hampton Beach, so formerly called sewer system installation. This is also a project type of reduction. The watershed that it impacts and improves, proposes to improve is Moneybog Bay, and the requested funding amount for this project is $180,245. So I believe we have Jen Mezziano for the applicant, who's also here via Zoom. If you could let Jen in, please, thank you.
Bring them in.
And also,
Hi, how are you?
hi, Dan Russo. Yes, please.
Thank you.
Good morning. On behalf of the patio condominiums, Dan Russo, P.O. Box 50 in West Hampton Beach, New York. Good morning, all.
Good morning, Dan.
So as the project indicates, this is an application to access funding through the Water Quality Improvement Project to replace the current sewer system, or I should say the cesspool system at the patio condominiums, which sits on Main Street in West Hampton Beach. Thanks to a very insightful mayor at the time, we've instituted a sewer system down there, and we intend to hook up and remove the cesspools and hook up to the sewer system. We are in the final stages of Health Department permitting. The project to date has is projected to cost $225,000, and as you know, the application seeks $180,000. The patio condominiums has spent about $30,000 to date with respect to engineering costs and permitting planning.
Well, it's very important that everybody connect.
Yes.
So this is a welcome application. Jennifer Messiano is on the Zoom.
Hi, so sorry I couldn't be there in person, and also sorry I can't have my camera on. I'm out of town with not a great cell connection. But I wanted to add just a couple of additional details that may be of interest. Mainly that this project location is within the 0 to 2 year groundwater contributing area of surface waters of the village. So it's considered high priority for nitrogen reduction as defined by the town's water quality improvement project plan. And it's expected that the connection to the sewer system will produce a reduction of 335 pounds of nitrogen per year that will no longer enter local groundwater.
That's great.
That's great stuff.
Yeah. And I see Judge Weber's here with you, and Did you want to say anything, Gary?
No, I don't
Okay.
think I can add to a good presentation.
Okay. Quit while you're ahead, right? Well, let's see. I don't have any other cards on this one.
I actually have a question for Jackie. There was another condominium complex. Was it in this vicinity that we already did, right?
So this one is
Okay.
on the northern side, but yeah, we have two other,
So to make sure it was two different.
yeah, there's two other condos that came in.
Perfect. Thank you.
Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom? application? Other than Jen? Kevin?
Sorry, what was that?
Is there anybody else on Zoom that wanted to speak to this application?
Yes, we have one hand up.
Okay. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
They put their hand down.
Oh. All right, does anybody else have any questions for Dan? All right, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I see that we have members of the Water Quality Advisory Committee here, so please, if at any time you feel that you'd like to step up and make
Yes, I
some
should have
comments.
introduced them. We have our chair, Stephanie Davis, here, and also Anthony Graves, one of our Water Quality Advisory Committee members. So if you guys have any other questions, about the review or recommendations, they are here to provide guidance and clarity.
Okay,
I'll just say
thank
that the
you.
committee's comments are always very helpful, so thank you.
Thanks for your
Yes, thank you.
insights.
Yes,
Talent to have there.
Yeah, we work very hard, and we have members from all different backgrounds, so it's very informative, and, we diligently review each application, so I really appreciate all their hard work.
And I do want to say, even though we don't have a ton of questions for you, we've had this in our possession for a while now. We've reviewed it. We've asked questions that, we had. So I think that's why we're able to move right along.
Yes, yep. So I will just introduce the next proposed application. So this is from Sag Harbor Village, and this is the marine waste proposal. So this would be a project type of reduction, and this is for the watershed and improvement proposed in Sag Harbor Cove and Sag Harbor Bay. They have requested funding in the amount of $78,816. And I believe Jen Mezziano is representing the village here today, unless there's anyone else here on behalf of the village. I did have also, maybe while Jen is getting, let in on the Zoom, I did want to also inform the town board that I had a very nice conversation with Mayor Gardella yesterday evening, just making sure that somebody was in attendance. And he also wanted the town board to be aware that they are looking at some plant updates and modifications. So one of the things they are analyzing for the existing sewage treatment plant is whether or not it will have the capacity or needs to be modified to possibly be able to take in and treat marine waste, which is an issue where not all STPs can accept that type of waste. So those were some questions that the Water Quality Advisory Committee had as well. So we did some research on that, but I just wanted to let you all know that the village is actually formally reviewing that and looking at STP upgrades for the existing facility. So that's something that they are looking into.
Would this be conditioned on that occurring, that the village would find a long-term solution so that we wouldn't, be in the same position next year?
Yes, yeah, so part of the recommendations with this would be just a one-time funding because we understand that the cost of transportation went up in this year. So the recommendation was to have a long-term capital project approach so that, the STP could either be retrofitted to take on this marine waste, or there could be a larger capacity storage and conveyance system that would help alleviate the cost of transportation elsewhere.
In the past, they've borne the cost?
Yeah.
The village has?
Yeah. So I believe Jen Mezziano, who is also presenting previously, can add any comments if there's any questions.
Kevin, is Jennifer Messiano on the Zoom?
Yeah, she's joining right now.
I might have been
I'm in.
incorrect if she's representing this application, but I'll let her speak to that because I know she works with the village.
Sure. I am in now, and so this funding is requested to support costs for the pump-out program in the village. The funds will support contractual costs associated with waste removal for the 2025 boating season. And based on historical data, the village anticipates that approximately 300,000 gallons of septic waste will be removed and safely disposed. This pump out program provides boaters a convenient and responsible way to dispose of sewage, and the pump out program directly contributes to protecting human health and maintaining overall health of the Peconic estuary. It's estimated that the program will prevent discharge of a little over 4,000 pounds of nitrogen to the estuary in 2025.
Jackie, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but do the large yachts pump out here, or do they pump out elsewhere?
I believe they
I
do, but I believe they might pump out directly. Like the pump out boat might not have the capacity. I think they might pump out directly at, like, you know, when they're docked. I'm not sure if Jen can answer that, though.
I mean, would their dockage fees make up some of this cost in the, I mean, they have to
Yeah.
pay an
I
exorbitant
can get
amount
an
of dockage
answer
fees.
to that for you. I
Thank
don't have that information at my fingertips, I'm sorry.
Thank you. If we could find that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jen, what's the difference in the circumstances from prior years to this year? That there, was it just an unexpected increase in costs?
Yeah, and there was an addition of another boat, so there's more services being provided through the program.
There's a lot of, Sag Harbor, they have an increased number of boats, but stay there now. And most of the boats are on mooring and traveling in and out of there. In the past, Sag Harbor has been the biggest areas for marine waste, that in West Hampton. And this is greatly needed. Because we don't want some of these boats on the moorings just to pump it out into the bay. And the president of the trustees here, he could answer more questions.
Let me just try and help you with this. I mean, anything that you can do, obviously, the boats, you know, you want to encourage them to utilize the pump-out vessels or land-based operations, because it's real easy for them to turn a valve and throw a switch, and next thing you know, we've got degraded water quality. So you want to facilitate what's needed in a maritime community. By, you know, Scott Horowitz, president of the trustees, by the way. Nice to see you, Madam Supervisor and members of the board. I just wanted to try and help you out because we've been involved in the pump-out program for a long time. You know, working logistics in transporting this waste around, it gets to be difficult. So if there's a problem at the county over in Hampton Bays, and then we end up having to get a truck to come in, we run into these problems. It would be good to be able to spread this ability out throughout our township. The waterways are all connected. The large vessels come in, you want to facilitate services that they need, and we want to keep our waterway clean. It's a big job, but it's a very important job, just like ex-trustee, current Councilman Pell pointed out. This area, plus over in the, you know, the West Hampton Beach area, there's a lot of pressure on that, and a lot of pressure on all of our pump-out boat systems and programs. So whatever it is that we can do to bolster that up is going to be a win for water quality and just a win for how we should be handling a community that's maritime-based. Okay, so if I could be of any service, I'm here for other projects, but I fully support, you know, this and the water quality and the town board doing what they can for this type of project.
Thank you, understood.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I fully support, you know, keeping this as a free service for residential boaters. My only question was, you know, if these large yachts that are coming in, obviously, they have the funding to support it, you know, we're asked to contribute more, not in the way of dumping fees, but in dockage fees, so that they could offset this cost instead of us using, you know, water quality money. It would be a net win, but.
Right. I don't have the, again, Stephanie Davis, Water Quality Committee. I don't have the answer for you on the large boats, but I will let you know that one of the cost factors this year is that they are no longer allowed to dispose of this waste at Riverhead Sewage Treatment Plant. They now have to truck it further west to Bergen Point or other sewage plants up island. So there is an increased transportation cost at this point for this waste.
What was that? Is that a capacity issue?
I don't think it's a capacity issue. The marine waste has a number of contaminants in it, depending upon what kind of treatment chemicals they're using in their tanks. And apparently this is material that can't be treated by all sewage treatment plants. I don't know what the change is at Riverhead, but Riverhead is no longer accepting this waste from this program.
There's an additive you put into your waste tank, so you
Yes.
don't get a back smell through the boat, which some boats use, and a lot of the larger boats will come and travel and they use it. and that's the trouble.
Yeah. So it's a place like a Bergen Point, much larger plant, and apparently they can still accept it, but it is a haul up there.
I mean, if you go out there, you can see the pump-out boat go from boat to boat. All the boats are being moored, and some of them are, they're like privately moored, they come in for 2 weeks or a week, and you can see the boats jump around, the pump-out boats.
Thank you for the
Yeah, and we
further
can-
explanation.
And I can add to that as well, in addition to the additional contract costs for the further transportation, since Riverhead is no longer accepting those wastes. The village is also seeing a huge increase in just the volume of boats and the gallonage of septic waste being collected. They collected 144 gallons in 2017, and last year it was 274,600 gallons. And this application projected a 10% increase, a modest 10% increase over the 2024 activity.
All right, thank you, Jennifer.
Sure, thank
Jen, are you
you.
representing the next one for the for the sewer shed as well?
I can stay on for that, yeah.
Okay.
And I believe we also have somebody from IMEG attending. And I'm not sure if Mayor Gardella is available as well.
Just we can keep you on Zoom.
Sure.
Yes, so I'll just formally introduce the next project, which is also for Sag Harbor Village. This is Sewer Shed K and L construction, which is supplemental funding. The project type is reduction, and the improvement is anticipated and proposed in the watershed of Sag Harbor Cove. Again, the project sponsor is Village of Sag Harbor, and the requested funding is $2,245,219.
So this grant request reflects cost escalations compared to the engineer's cost estimates that were used for our initial grant requests to the town. Cost escalations that I think everyone is seeing for their projects have also hit Sag Harbor. So when the bids came in, the funding required was higher than initially anticipated. The village has been looking into and securing grant funds from many different sources, including Southampton and East Hampton CPF, Suffolk County Water Quality. The U.S. EPA has provided funding, as well as New York State DEC's WQIP grant program. So the 2.5 million request, or 2.2 million requested here will make up the gap and enable the village to move forward with construction and fully fund the project. I don't know if there are if there's anybody from IMEG available that could speak to any more technical questions that the board might have.
Kevin, is anyone else waiting to come onto the Zoom?
No one else on Zoom waiting.
I'll restate, I know the board has seen this application in the past. Overall, the project is going to reduce nitrogen loading to surface waters of the Peconic Estuary by 2,551 pounds per year. And all of the engineering reports, plans, and specifications are complete and have been provided to the Water Quality Committee and the board.
Do you recall what the supplemental funding in 2023 was for? Was that additional increase in costs that were unexpected or unanticipated?
I can look that up for you. Yeah, that was additional, yes. The village has been going to the CPF program year over year using best available information for the construction costs. So the supplemental funding that's been awarded in the past has been to address cost increases that became apparent as the design and bidding process went forward. But I can pull more specific information for you to speak to the 2023 award as well.
So is this number based on the actual bid that was accepted now, or is this still an
Yes.
estimate?
This is based on the actual bid. So these are contractual costs. The village has executed contracts with the contractors to build this project. So these are firm numbers at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, Jackie, let's move forward with the next one.
The next application we are considering is with the New York Center of Clean Water and Technology, so formerly named the Replacement of Cesspools with IA Systems at Meacock Landings Condominium. This project type is also under reduction, and the proposed improvement would be to the watershed of Meacock's Bay. This requested funding is in the amount of $1,770,000. And it's to upgrade the existing sanitary system to an IA system.
Good morning, Chris Gobler, professor at Stony Brook University, director of the New York State Center for Clean Water Technology. Just have some visuals that'll come up momentarily. Just one thing to state on the financials of this project, no money will go to the Center for Clean Water Technology or Stony Brook University. So everything, the center is there just as match. So we're using our state dollars to support this project, but there'll be no money going from the town to the center. All the money will be going to the engineers and the construction of this project. Just being clear on that, so there's no, in fact, as I said, we're just matched, so we're actually contributing money to the project. We're not getting any money. And I guess I'll just start speaking in general, that this is a project, obviously, to upgrade the condominiums there. There's 30 of them. They have cesspools that just are draining directly into the ground, and from there, obviously, draining directly into Meacock's Bay. That represents a potent source of nitrogen, also potentially bacteria. And within Meacock's Bay, there's obviously lots of problems. I'm wondering if I'm going to get a chance to actually talk to this, but I guess I'll just start. So just to talk to the problems. There are harmful algal blooms in Meacock's Bay, both marine harmful algal blooms when the cut is open, freshwater harmful algal blooms when the cut is closed. There's actually one happening there right now. These are in both cases, these are the type that make toxins that are a threat to human health as well as marine life. And yeah, I guess the other thing to talk about is that maybe you saw the news, but data out of Surfrider was published in the New York Post last year, and where they declared Meacock's Bay one of the 10 most contaminated water bodies in the country. That's based on data with regards to Enterococcus. We've been measuring Enterococcus concentrations throughout Meacock's Bay this year. The hotspot for the entire bay, and probably the source for the whole system, is the northern extent of Hayground Cove. So exactly where we're looking to upgrade these systems. So that's another important driver there. How are we on technology? Not quite there?
Technology is failing us.
Okay, that's fine. I'll just wrap up then for this one. If we can, because I'll be back, and so maybe it'll work for those. The final thing I'll say for this particular upgrade is that it's unlike any standard upgrade that's been done for any condominium complex on Long Island. I think I can say that confidently. Because in addition to replacing the standard septic systems with Fuji Clean systems, the other thing the center is contributing here is a novel technology that we have called the wood chip box. By co-opting the wood chip box to the effluent of the Fuji Clean systems, we can actually achieve the lowest nitrogen effluent of any system that exists in Suffolk County. So Fuji Clean system is just about the best you can get. On average, its effluent is about 11 milligrams per liter. We put one of these wood chip boxes on the end of these things, we can get it down below 5. In some cases, almost undetectable. So this is the best technology available in Suffolk County for getting the nitrogen levels down. So I think I'm probably going to leave it there. That's everything I'm remembering I was going to say in my slides. So if anybody has any questions, I'll take those, and then otherwise.
So these are going in place in the already disturbed areas?
So this is replacing the existing concrete septic system. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You speak a little bit about life expectancy, and is there any maintenance involved with this?
Sure. Suffolk County requires twice a year maintenance on all innovative and alternative septic systems. So twice a year, someone would come to inspect the systems, make sure the systems are functioning, and do any maintenance that would be required. On the life expectancy front, they are expected to last decades. And also say on the Fuji Clean front that that's an international corporation, right? They're from Japan, and they have these systems installed all around the world. So it's pretty reliable technology.
What about the wood chip box? How often does that have to be replaced?
So to our knowledge, we think that will also be decadal. In Happy News, all wood chip boxes have access. There'll be access ports to the surface. So if needed, in an emergency or other reason, they could be vacuumed out as waste, and they could then be replaced. We have some systems that are in the ground that have been performing and have lost no performance over 10 years. And we have colleagues who have systems for 30 years, and they're still performing. So I feel pretty good about the wood chip boxes.
Yeah, that's great. That's a nice addition to the technology. I just have one other question. Generally, we were of the understanding that these IA systems, for example, the Fuji, would be about $35,000 for a homeowner, and they can avail themselves of funding through the state and the county and the town. But on the estimate, it's listing them at $85,000 to $105,000, and I was just wondering, is the price of these systems, the installation, going up?
I mean, that's part of it. I think it's also a little bit of a complex install in that, instead of, the alternative, of course, would be to build a sewage treatment plant there. But that would be even more expensive when we cost it out. So I think that's the cost the engineer came up with, Brian Grogan, thank you. Came up with those estimates, and I think it's based on having to get them all arranged properly, and there's also restoration costs in there as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Dr. Gobler? All right, thank you for coming in.
Back up, stop all the trustees just briefly. If I could just back up Dr. Gobler. As the owner of Mecox Bay, the Board of Trustees, there's been a tremendous collaboration among the residents of the Mecox Bay watershed to come together to try and find solutions, and obviously the trustees have been working on managing the water in Mecox Bay for hundreds of years. We're like driving the ambulance over there every time we open up the Mecox Cut. I was quoted in that Post article. It's kind of sad to see that we have such a beautiful area with, Enterococcus trends and pollution, in our community. And this is like a main source of the pollution to that watershed. So whatever it is that we can do to help alleviate that is going to be great for public health, safety, the environment. So I support what the community is doing there. I support what Dr. Goldberg is doing there. And we're all doing everything that we can. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And the board is looking into other measures to help support the effort for the IA systems. And I know that the Mecox Conservancy is joining forces with the Peconic Estuary and our own sustainability committee to try to get the word out and help people through the process.
I think when we're joining forces, I think we get good results. And coincidentally, I just installed one of these systems at my own house.
Oh, well done, thank you.
So I know, it is costly. It's great that there are grants available. I don't have grants available to my house because it's new construction, so we're mandated to do this, and it's the right thing to do. So I would imagine that the engineering of, taking a commercial system apart and disposing of what you have to dispose of, and then preparing that site, mobilization, demobilization, bringing all the equipment and wiring and so forth, it does get to be more complex than it seems. But I think that the grant opportunities are great, and I'm just glad to see this going on, taking some pressure off us all. So thank you very much.
Were there any public comments?
Is anybody on Zoom that would like to speak about these last couple presentations, Kevin?
There are a few people on Zoom, but I don't know if they want to speak or not.
Okay. Well, we'll continue, and they can put their hands up if they want, and maybe we could take the questions at the end.
Great. So the next project, we're moving on to the aquatic habitat restoration projects. So the first one, which is number 6 in the resolution, is the proposed by the Cornell Cooperative Extension. So this is formally titled Multi-Species Ecosystem Approach to Habitat Restoration and Water Quality Improvement. The project type is restoration. This is located in different various locations in the town, so the watersheds that it's improving are various. So it includes East Quogue as well as Sag Harbor. I'll let the applicant speak more to that, and the requested funding for this project is $398,413.
Thank you, Jackie. Hi, I'm Kim Barber with Cornell Cooperative Extension Marine Program. I head up our Back to the Bays initiative, and that is what this proposal is centered on, expanding and continuation of our habitat and shellfish restoration efforts in multiple watersheds this year. So we've been very appreciative of the support we've received since 2020 to focus these efforts, in town waters at least, off of our Tiana Bayside facility. So we've worked closely with the town trustees to establish a 5-acre sanctuary site where we've annually seeded bay scallops, hard clams, Spanish shell oysters, and of course planted eelgrass as well. So it's really kind of been a flagship site for us, and awesome capabilities to get people involved. And that's what our requests to date have always been supporting. But this year, we'd like to tie in 2 more of our Back to the Base stewardship sites, as we call them. So these stewardship sites are long-term receiving areas for these multi-species restoration methodologies that we use. And the idea is we get permitted for 10+ years to be able to build up our oyster reefs and again, all the other methodologies as well, because that's where we're seeing the most restoration success, where we could continually visit these sites every year and expand upon what's going on there to maximize those water quality and habitat improvements. So for the past 2 years, we've been working closely with Mayor Truhold over there, the Quogue Village, to establish a new stewardship site there. So we're growing oysters under the Post Lane Bridge there. They've been growing fantastically. So we've done 2 years of plantings now, and that's kind of usually how we dictate the long-term success or trajectory to be successful. So we've been so pleased. I have Kate Rozzi Snook, who's our aquaculture manager here with us, and she's very pleased with the growth of everything that's happening in Quogue there. So we really are seeking to expand upon efforts there and take some of the pressure off of the village to fund that as well. With all of these sites, it's always a multitude of funding that we bring to the table for this specific project. We're actually coming up with 54% of it is matched, so the overall project is more over $700,000. We're requesting $398,000, I believe. Back to what we're actually looking to get funded here. In addition to Quogue, we've also been working closely with Sag Harbor Village, and we've done 2 years of test plantings of a spat-on-shell oyster reef in Sag Harbor Cove area as well. And for the past 8 years or so, we've done some very successful eelgrass restoration in our Sag Harbor Shoals site, as we call it. So the funds would support expansion of that work as well. So With the eelgrass restoration, as mentioned, we would be expanding the work we're doing at Tiana Bayside and Sag Harbor Shoals. We also have written in there to do some pilot plantings and work in partnership with local partners and the trustees to find 2 to 3 more potential eelgrass restoration sites, because everything we've done at Tiana is looking really good, and we're actually getting maxed out as to how valuable our work there would be specifically. So we're interested in moving on, in addition, in other areas within Shinnecock as well. For the oyster reef restoration, we do want to continue and expand deployments of spat-on-shell oysters at all 3 of those sites, so Quogue, Hampton Bays, and Sag Harbor. Continue and expand the rounds of oysters that we're growing in that Post Lane Bridge flubsy, because again, it just gets such great flow with the current there. The oysters are growing amazingly, and the oyster reef we have off the Field Club there, we've monitored it for 2 years now. The growth is amazing. It's kind of off the charts. I think is that the most successful site we have, I think, in terms of growth. Really great survivability. We were, a little bit curious because it is kind of a high energy area, but we're so pleased that that reef is looking great. So I think the timing is right to expand efforts there. And then, of course, Sag Harbor as well. So that's one of our newer sites. So we have to do some more monitoring there this fall to see how this year's planting went. We did see a little bit more mortality at that site than we had liked to, so we might need to rethink that site specifically as well. But either way, we're really interested in enabling plantings to happen at all 3 of those sites. Hard clam restoration, the same thing. So we plan to grow out millions of hard clams to seed at these 3 sites within town waters as well. Same thing with our bay scallop restoration. So my colleague Harrison has been operating a shellfish nursery there at Tiana. So we're growing out bay scallops in lantern nets and trialing different gear types in hopes to scale that up. So with the funds from this project, we'd be able to do just that and keep on expanding our bay scallop plantings to keep those populations from not entirely dwindling. So we're interested in that as well. And then our coastal plant nursery operation, I don't know if you've been down at Tiana Bayside recently, but thanks to the funds from the last 2 rounds, we've done a huge expansion of our coastal plant nursery area, and we're growing out plants to use at restoration sites throughout Southampton town. So there's been another request to do another planting at Long Beach over in Sag Harbor area, where we've been able to take plants that we're growing on site there and bolster the habitat availability at that town property as well. So it all kind of works together as a feeder site to be able to enable all this restoration within the town. Stewardship is a very big part of what we're doing as well. So all of this restoration, it's designed to actually involve people. So I know Michael's been at many of our workshops, and I always love to see our familiar faces and supporters there to actually get their hands involved in what we're doing, whether that be seeding the shellfish or weaving the eelgrass through our eelgrass tortillas that we then go out and plant. So again, that whole community connection is really important to us. This also has a school component as well. We have letters of support in our package from several local schools that we want to get our reef raisers and meadow makers curriculum in and get those schools helping us grow out the marsh grass that we use for the coastal restoration, and also trialing growing out some spat-on-shell in classroom tanks so they get a really good visual and could really get involved in growing something that's going to give back to the bays. So we're excited about that. And then, of course, monitoring. So with all of our sites, we always do at least quarterly monitoring at all of our stewardship sites to monitor, the success or the failure, because that happens sometimes too. And then also we're able to collect that data to comparatively compare the sites even within our own network and troubleshoot what might not be working, or when it's time to maybe select a new site, or when it's time to scale up certain sites as in the Quogue site. So that's pretty much the overview. So happy to address any questions.
So I'll just say thank you for that thorough presentation. I think you all do just great work. In particular, I think your educational programs are really beneficial to the community. You see children and their families learning about our marine life, the importance of our bay scallops, our oysters, our crabs. I think even seahorses too?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're doing the Seahorse Hotel. That's not
Yeah.
part of this project, but it's
Right.
what we do at many of our stewardship sites now.
And I know how closely you work with Mayor Truhold, with Mayor Gardella, and coordinating that with the town. That intermunicipal partnership and coordination is so essential and key, and I appreciate that, and this town board appreciates that. I'd also say that, the work that you're doing is demonstrating how we bring a lot of that marine life back, which is so vital to the sustainability of our aquaculture. So really appreciate that. The only thing I want to say is that my hope is, as recently appointed local government committee chair of PEP, Peconic Estuary Partnership, I just want to make sure, and this also coincides with some of the comments from our CPF board, that you are coordinating with Peconic Estuary Partnership. They're a great organization, working together to ensure some of the local compliance. And as Scott Horowitz, our trustee president, mentioned, if we're all working together toward the same goal, that's really the secret to ensuring community success. So I just want to make sure we have that commitment from you all.
Absolutely.
Of course, as always, that you do. I know you're always committed to that partnership, so.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, this would be the first CPF-funded project. If it got funded, that would involve work in the Peconics. So now that, we're putting that into the mix, we'll certainly be coordinating with those folks as well.
And if you have any needs or questions with working with PEP, please let me know, and I'm happy to make that connection.
Great, that would be very good.
The advisory committee also suggested or recommended that you work with the South Shore Estuary Reserve and the Shinnecock Bay Restoration Program and the DEC.
Sounds great.
So,
So,
possible for you to do?
absolutely. We work very closely with DEC. There's been some new guidelines in relation to eelgrass specifically, but my colleague Steve Schott has been, Della over there, who's our main contact for eelgrass. They are in constant communication. This project is on their radar, and we report back to them, as we do with all the shellfish that, we have to get permits from them. So it's required that we report back to them anyway. So yes, we will certainly work on that. In South Shore Estuary Reserve, that's partially why we've been able to expand the eelgrass restoration we've been doing at Tiana specifically. We leverage some funds from a grant we currently have open with them to do extensive eelgrass restoration throughout the whole South Shore Estuary Reserve. So we will certainly continue to coordinate and work with them too. And they're actually to thank for providing some of the match for this, because we're able to leverage some of those funds to.
That match is greatly appreciated.
Yes, thank you. We're happy to have it. And there's private in there too. So a lot of our Sag Harbor work specifically, we had no municipal funds for that. We have some really amazing business partners and private donors and local foundations that have, provided over $100,000 to support us for the past 2 years. So we were able to pilot all those efforts. So now we're asking for some funds from the town to hopefully help us expand that, but we'll still be getting contributions from them as well.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
And I also want to say thank you for coming, and thank you for doing that. And I got a call yesterday from Chris for a little pep talk to make sure. He says, Chris, I'm going to support you. I always supported Cornell. My father supported Cornell when he was supervisor. He actually got him the grant to build a tin building back in the 80s.
Oh, yes.
So I have lived with Cornell, and they had seen all the amazing things they have done over the years and help people, and they bring the people together. I can't wait to, we have a few new projects in the pipeline on living shorelines and low silt bulkheads with planting wetlands behind it, which we reached out, and Chris, has been talking to Matt back there about it.
Yes.
He's been very excited.
And I'll add to that too, which I didn't, it's in the full proposal, but we're looking to expand those coastal plant grow out. We're trying to do these restoration rafts, as we call them, to actually grow some of that marsh grass and cordgrass in, a more aquatic environment. So while it's even growing on, it's going to be benefiting the water as well. And then we could use that for those other projects as well. So
very
it's
excited in the
expanding
future.
that network. So that's great.
So I hope to see you again next year for some new projects.
I hope so as well. But thank you for your consideration of this one for now. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Truhold, thank you for your patience. Would you like to say a few words?
Mayor Truhold from Village of Quogue. Working with the Cornell Cooperative Extension has been a real pleasure, and they've been 2 years ago, we got a grant to help a different oyster project in the village, which is the Flupsy project, which has been operating for 2 years. That has also been very successful, and Cornell Cooperative is, provides the oyster spat throughout the whole East End. Working with Kim in particular has been a pleasure. The project at the Post Bridge has been hugely successful, and it's a great example of public-private partnership because Andrew Lynch, who's on the board of the Cornell Cooperative, is, who also has the Hampton Jitney Company. They've been supporting. We've gotten residents in the village to support. We've gotten kids in the village to come out and help with the cleaning and all. It's been a great example. So I'm very excited to get additional funding, if possible, to expand that project. There's currently only one restoration barge. I think that the hope is to increase that to 2, maybe 3, eventually 4. And the oysters are thriving, and it's great for the water. So I'm a big supporter of this, and hope that the board and the CPF will support it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Is there anyone on Zoom, Kevin, for this topic?
On Zoom.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Also want to recognize our former supervisor, Jay Schneiderman, is here with us today. Jay, good to see you, and thank you for the work you're doing with the Mecox Bay Conservancy. It's so important.
All right, so we'll be moving on to the public hearing number 7. So this is proposed by the Village of Southampton. This is the Taylor Creek Habitat Restoration Project. The project type is for restoration, and the improvement is proposed to the watershed of Shinnecock Bay. Their requested funding is in the amount of $506,770.50. So we do have an applicant for the village who will describe the project, and if you have any questions.
Thank you, Jackie, and thank you, Madam Supervisor and members of the Town Council. Bill Manger, Mayor of the Village of Southampton.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very
today.
much. I'm joined with Matt Jedlicka of LKMA, who will be acting as our engineers on this project. So Taylor Creek is a body of water in the western part of the village that opens directly into Shinnecock Bay, and it is intersected by Boyson Road, which is a residential street in the village. That bridge and culvert that joined the end of Taylor Creek has failed. And so we now have stagnant water that is full of Phragmites on the north side because there's no free flow of water from Taylor Creek. It also has prevented fish like alewives and others from being able to go up and back and forth in the whole length of Taylor Creek. So it's also an area that floods in the village. So what we would like to do is, again, with the engineering help from LKMA, is to rebuild that culvert in a way that's natural with a rock bottom so that the fish and other creatures are able to go back and forth. And it's also felt that if we have free flow of water again all the way to the end of Taylor Creek, that we will see the elimination of some of those Phragmites, which are really choking the end of Taylor Creek. But that's just basically an overview. The village is looking for, again, the $506,770.50. That represents 75% of the cost of this restoration. The village is going to pay for the other 25% out of our own finances. But now I will turn it over to Matt Jedlicka to talk a little bit more about the technical aspects. Matt.
Good morning, Supervisor, board members. Matt Jedlicka from McLean Associates. So the mayor pretty much said everything that needs to be said, but the idea is there's a failed 15-inch culvert pipe that crosses the road, and the intent is to replace that with a 2-foot by 2-foot open bottom precast concrete culvert, which will allow the tidal flow to come in and out up Taylor Creek, will allow the alewives to go up, the glass eels, which are baby eels, that they can cross that. So it's the culvert replacement. There's some bulkhead work that's required as far as the rest of the project. There's native planting restorations that's part of it. The general idea as far as habitat restoration is to allow the salt water to get back up into Taylor Creek and raise the salinity a little bit, which will kind of decrease the Phragmite issue.
And this.
Yeah, doesn't. the supervisor wanted know about a fish ladder. We don't need one there. I tried to get this done about 10, 12 years ago when I was a trustee. And I'm very familiar with this area, and actually it goes way up. There's a couple small ponds off this where it's really choking. You probably end up getting muskrats up there, which is good. The alewives will go up there. The birds will take off in there because we have a couple of accounts where I actually go up there and chase geese off the ponds in that area. So this is like a super important project.
So this will be similar to the Alewife Creek project that we did with the Highway Department. So we've done, I don't know, maybe 10 fish ladders, maybe more throughout the county. In this particular case, that open bottom culvert with the stone lining will almost act like a fish ladder. It'll allow the fish passage, whereas like a lot of the other fish ladders that we have, there's an elevation issue, and it's that the roadway has dammed up, the connection between the water bodies. So in those cases, you need to actually have something to allow the fish to jump up and, get to the higher water body. But in this case, everything is kind of on the same level. So as long as we can open up that culvert and allow the water to flow through and have something that the fish can kind of, sneak through with the stones, it'll help.
Matt, could you speak a little bit to how this will help to restore Shinnecock Bay a little bit, the connection there?
Well, the connection, so Taylor Creek right now is very stagnant, but still does flow. So we feel that the flushing of Taylor Creek will allow, some more health coming into that section of Shinnecock where, even though the stagnant water and the pipe that's failed, it still allows water coming through, but that water sits up there in Taylor's Creek and doesn't ever have a chance to get flushed out.
Right, and I just want to note for the public, Mayor Manger came and visited myself and Supervisor Moore to discuss that particular issue. That was one of the main impetus to coming to try to find ways to restore the Taylor Creek area there. So I just want to commend the mayor for being able to stay focused on this matter, and we're grateful to be working together to solve this issue.
Oh, so just an update. We have a trustee's permit. So
oh, great.
We have the trustee's permit. We're currently in permitting with the DEC. And, there's road raising to try to mitigate some of the flooding in the area. That's part of it, part of the overall project, but, yeah.
When you fix these culverts, even in Mecox, when you go up in there, over in North Sea, when the high tide comes in, you let more water into Taylor Creek. As more water goes into Taylor Creek and goes up into the wetlands, it makes more wetlands, more water flow coming in and out.
Yeah, we just want to increase the connectivity between the water bodies.
Could you speak a little bit of the design? Is it going to be reviewed by the Eastern Ecological Science Center? Is that part of the?
I'm not aware if.
Sort of the commentary, right? Is that correct?
Okay.
Well, we're happy to have it reviewed by anyone that you would like us to have a look at.
That was a recommendation from the committee.
Okay. Okay. Yes, of course.
Did you want to speak to that, or?
I just want to speak to one other matter.
Sure.
And one of the things that the committee was very pleased to see with this one is that the road raising elements are not part of what's being asked for from water quality funds. They are being paid for separately by the village. So that was something that we were very pleased to see. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Matt, just a technical question. How do you decide on 2 feet by 2 feet? Is there some parameters that?
It's a volume thing.
So you are, okay.
Yeah, trying to keep close to the 15-inch, diameter, something like that, but to square it off so there's more of a flat bottom.
Okay.
So it allows a little bit more water than the 15-inch pipe, but we don't want to have, a 4-foot culvert or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're fortunate to have mayors with us today that are so committed to improving water quality in the town.
I want to commend everybody. I want to commend all the mayors, obviously, for being so dedicated to water quality. Being Southampton Town trustee, it's very important. And I know this was also important to Councilman Pell. As he said, he tried to get this done, 10, 12 years ago. And with your help and everybody's help, he'll be able to rest assured that this project will be done, and it will help assure we have a healthy ecosystem throughout our entire bay system. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if there's any public comments on that. I don't know.
Kevin, is anybody? Does
No
anyone have
hands.
their hand up?
Okay.
Yeah, I guess we could just do them at the end.
If there's no other additional questions or public comments, we will move on to the group of non-source abatement projects, which number 8 is the pilot PRB to mitigate legacy nitrogen entering Mill Pond and Mecox Bay. This is a project sponsored by the New York State Center for Clean Water Technology. This is a project type of restoration and remediation, proposing to improve the watershed of Mill Pond. This requested funding amount is $297,200.
Technologies.
Okay, good morning. Chris Goldler, Stony Brook University, Director of the New York State Center for Clean Water Technology. Just a few quick slides here about the project. Can you just click the space bar if I say next slide? Because the remote doesn't seem to want to behave. Okay, so there's lots of problems, as I indicated in the past, with Mecox Bay. We've measured the occurrence of hypoxia, and I said marine and freshwater harmful algal blooms. Next slide. If you can just hit the space bar, sorry. Probably the one that I'm most concerned with are what we'd call freshwater blue-green algae blooms, also known as cyanobacterial blooms. You can see the picture of Mill Pond in the upper right there. Microcystis is one of the most common of these, and it makes microcystin, which is a gastrointestinal toxin. When it was first discovered, it was called fast death factor because it can cause rapid mortality in mammals. Next slide. And I'm sparing you the details of what it can do to dogs and elephants and birds and such. And if you just hit the spacebar once more, this is just showing, if you could just hit the spacebar once more there, just once more. Just showing that last year, well, anyway, last year we had a couple of, we had blue-green algae blooms and cyanobacterial blooms happening intensely in Mill Pond, and then that being flushed into Mecox Bay. So Mill Pond is actually seeding Mecox Bay with these toxic blue-green algae blooms, particularly when the cut is closed, the salinity goes down, and the whole system becomes vulnerable. This is a paper that I published actually 20 years ago. You can't see the details, but it's suffice to say it was a one-year study of Mecox Bay that showed that it's nitrogen that intensifies these blue-green algae blooms, particularly during summer. Next slide. If you look at the sub-watershed study by Suffolk County, where they mapped out the sources of nitrogen, and you look at that pie chart to the upper left, it's different than a lot of different ecosystems. That you've probably heard me say this before. If you want to know where the nitrogen is coming from, you better look at each individual estuary. In Mecox Bay, the green is fertilizer. So actually, half of the nitrogen coming into Mecox Bay, according to Suffolk County, is from fertilizer. Next slide. And if you look at the watershed of Mill Pond in particular, and you look at the area due north of Mill Pond, maybe that's no surprise if you look at all those farm fields. So all of that is coming down the pipe right to Mill Pond. It's the receiving, and if I put in another picture that showed an even larger water body, you just see that there's all these farm fields, it's all funneling down. That's all the watershed to Mill Pond. So all of that water is now traveling down into Mill Pond, intensifying the blue-green algae blooms there, and then flushing them out into Mecox Bay, along with the nitrogen that gets in there as well. Next slide. So what the center is proposing here is a permeable barrier. You're probably familiar with these. These are put in the ground to intercept groundwater and promote denitrification, removing nitrate in the groundwater and turning it into nitrogen gas. And maybe just hit it a few times. There's some other text, but we can skip through those. So go ahead and, until you get to the next slide, you're going to need to hit it like a few times, I think. One more. Okay, so Molly Graffam is here, and she was a grad student when we at the center when we installed this PRB in Hampton Bays. We're putting a few different types of permeareactive barriers, but if you hit just the next slide, this was funded by the town. It was done in collaboration with Cornell. And essentially what this data shows here, if you compare upstream to downstream, it just shows that these trench type of PRBs are very successful in removing nitrogen. We're getting more than 90% removal. Next slide. A second type we've been putting in is a little bit different than the trench PRBs. They're called a column array. They're a lot easier to install. You can see here this little geoprobe can be put in, and you put in 10-inch holes in the ground essentially, and you fill those with wood chips. So rather than having a big backhoe that build this big trench, you can essentially bring this little instrument in there and get essentially similar performance. If you put in the next slide, this was done, and you can see what it looks like. That's when you put it in, but you know, within a month, obviously, or less, that gets converted back into lawns. This is literally in someone's backyard. Next slide. And this is just showing the concentrations of nitrate on the back end coming into that column array and then coming through. They're color coded there, but you can see we get very good removal as the groundwater that's high in nitrate moves through the PRB, and again, we're getting very high levels of removal. Next slide. There's one more type of reactive barrier that can be used, and that's known as an injection well, where you can inject an organic carbon source into a well, and doing so, it's injected in such a way so that it's not mobile, it doesn't move, it stays in place, but it serves as the carbon source to promote denitrification. And as the groundwater comes into contact with it, it again promotes that denitrification. The organic carbon source doesn't get mobilized, but rather stays in place and does its job. So next slide. So what this project proposes is to actually compare the three different types of reactive barriers. So a trench reactive barrier, an injection well reactive barrier, and these columns, all in the Mill Pond watershed. One, this will be removing a lot of nitrogen, but two, we'll learn a lot by doing this side-by-side comparison to understand which is going to be the most effective at removing nitrogen, which will be, and we thankfully at the center have engineers who can also do cost analyses as well. So what's the bang for the buck? Based on how much you spend, how much nitrogen are you removing? So this will be a good project for removing nitrogen from Mill Pond. It'll also be a good project for then informing future projects, what's going to be the most cost effective. And you know, this would, I think I would call this a step one, because if it's successful, we think there are opportunities to actually expand this and do it all the way across and intercept all the groundwater coming towards Mill Pond. And you know, and so just to say that it does seed the rest of Mecox Bay. No, it's fine. It's totally fine. And because either way, this is my last two slides here. And you know, I did see the comments from the committee about potentially moving the site where we were going to put this in, and we're totally in favor of doing that. And in fact, the new proposed site, which would be in the right-of-way on a road, actually could present a great future opportunity. You know, there are these right-of-way areas and roads where, you know, these things could be put in, and in this particular case, I think it's Head of Ponds Road, where you could literally sort of put a liner, you know, or a barrier all the way across that road before the groundwater's coming in there. So, you know, in addition to being a good nitrogen removal project and ticking the boxes on the amount of nitrogen removed and a number of years will last, I think it also has the opportunity to be informative for future projects, both with regard to where it's going to go and also, like I said, cost effectiveness and efficacy of technology. So that's it.
So what's the length of time that you would be gathering the data before you were to conclude which system is more effective?
I think we're going to do a preliminary groundwater. We want to get a good sense of the groundwater there first before we do anything. So that'll probably go for, I'm going to guess, at least a half a year. And then we'll be monitoring it for 5 years on at least a quarterly basis. And again, that's the center's match. So that's, we're putting up our funds in order to do this. Because actually this, we're mainly state funded, and this project also is, fits within our state mission. So we can therefore use our state funds to support our staff in order to monitor this for 5 years and, be able to report out on it, how well it's doing.
Would the cost be impacted if you have to find that other location in the right-of-way?
No, it shouldn't be.
I just want to comment that, living here my entire life, Mecox Bay and Mill Pond were a lot healthier when there were more farms and less homes, so.
Yeah, and the second biggest source there is on-site, and we're working on that already. In fact, we have a project and a person at the center called Tom Varley, his name is Tom Varley. We call him our watershed manager, and he's actually working with homeowners, at least at this point, more than a dozen, it could be 2 dozen, on taking them through that process, helping them apply for grants. We've actually gotten to the point now where he actually, he's now applying for grants for the people just to get things moving along.
Yeah, because I'll guarantee you there's a lot more nitrogen going on those lawns than there are going on those farm fields.
Yeah, well, but here's the other thing. And I'm not, as I point to those farm fields, I'm not. The title of the project recognized was the word legacy nitrogen. So I'm not pinning this on current farming practices. It takes decades for that groundwater to flow, but it's there and it's coming. We've measured it already. It's very, very high. So fully agree. Farm practices have greatly improved over the decades. And look, no farmer wants to be wasting money, right? They're paying for that fertilizer. So the more judicious they can be, the better they are for their bottom line. And so, I know
Homeowners only care that their lawn is green. They don't care what it costs.
Yeah. So, so this is meant to address that legacy nitrogen. Some of which is probably from legacy potato fields that where there was a less care. People maybe were being a little bit less careful about fertilizing compared to.
I just want to be careful on the wording because as we work to preserve farmland, I don't want people to come in and say hey, it's contributing to the health of our bays, and so they fight against it. So I just wanted to point that out, that these bodies of water were a lot cleaner when there was more farms and less people.
And are any of these structures above ground?
No, this is all below ground. The only thing when we're done, the only thing that'll be above ground will be some PVC ports for sampling the groundwater.
Mm-hmm. And if it's in the right-of-way, is it weight-bearing if a vehicle were to?
It shouldn't have any, I wouldn't want a very heavy truck driving over it per se, but it should be weight-bearing and should be fine. Because there's no, it should be perfectly fine.
Okay. It's very interesting. I can't wait to learn about the results.
Okay, well, we'll be happy to report on it. We're fortunate enough to have the project move forward, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gobler.
Thank you.
Charlie, we have.
So, members of the town board, Councilwoman McNamara is correct. You're 100% correct. We've got a lot of density, and that density has created a lot of these issues and a lot of pressure on our watershed that we're now trying to abate. Mill Pond, for 16 years that I've been in this building, been working on trying to find a solution for Mill Pond. I know the folks in that community have been very, very engaged and wanting to get some results on better water quality. I know there are folks that live in this area that want to see this become swimmable in their lifetimes, and I understand that. There's been many projects that have been tried here, solar bees, Foslock, now we're talking about other types of technologies and other infusions perhaps that folks want to put in there to try and clear out that water column. I applaud the work of Dr. Gobler and the Center for Clean Water in coming forward to try and help us resolve this issue. It's a big issue, and anything that you can do to help us kind of get a solution here, because you're 100% correct. All the density that's created in this community has just trickled its way into this watershed, and now we're trying to undo all of that and get things cleaned up. So I think you have excellent opportunities here, and again, we all work together. Perhaps we'll see things turn around in our lifetimes, so thank you.
Thank you. I think so. This is a multi-prong approach for Mecox Bay with the IA systems and this fertilizer, nitrogen abatement, so I think we're going to be able to accomplish some good things. All right, what's next, Jackie?
I just always want to check in and see if there's any public comments on each individual project, but
Yeah.
if there's not, we can go to the next one.
Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
And we'll do a recap at the end, too.
Yes. Okay, so the next proposal is also a non-point source abatement project. This is the Corwin Lane Boat Ramp, stormwater management improvements. This is proposed by the Southampton Town trustees. The project type is remediation. The watershed proposed to be improved is Tiana Bay. Sorry. And the funding request is in the amount of $152,250.
Horowitz, President of the Trustees again. Nice to see you. Matt Jedlicka, we're working on this project together. This is just another classic example of where we are working closely with the town of Southampton, in this case, the highway superintendent at an area called Corwin Lane, where we have a boat ramp. We have a lot of boat ramps that need to be repaired throughout the town. It's important to be able to get people in and out of that recreational activity, and it's important for our local baymen to be able to utilize that. But the town has not been plumbed properly over the course of time, and you have a lot of runoff that's just going straight into the bays. And what we would like to do is work closely with the town highway to achieve this boat ramp, which the trustees are paying for. It's got nothing to do with this, and this started back when Councilman Pell was a trustee. It's about making the upland portion of it in that sort of zone where it connects a lot better, where we're going to be able to improve the drainage and improve the areas so that you don't have these pollutants running straight into the bay. We have to maintain this activity, boat ramps, but we want to do it in the most environmentally sensitive way. And you already have projects that are going on with the highway. It's just where the intersection is with the trustees. We want to make them much, much better projects by working together. I don't want to get ahead of the engineer. Matt does a great job.
Matt Jedlicka, principal at McLean Associates. So, like Scott said, this is like a sister project to a project that the Highway Department actually already received water quality money for. So it's to try to make that more of a holistic approach to the area. So the Highway Department's project is to mitigate some sheet flow that comes down Corwin Lane, try to capture it in a vegetated bioswale and allow that water to be treated before it eventually goes into Tiana Bay. That portion abuts the trustees' property, which is the boat ramp, and the trustees have somebody to replace the boat ramp, but the boat ramp property itself has a lot of impervious pavement, and so the general idea is to try to marry that project up with the Highway Department's project and make it one cohesive project where we remove a lot of the impervious pavement, replace it with some permeable pavers up at the top of the boat ramp and gravel in the parking area. And that summarizes pretty much the whole project.
Yes, it's a great project, and I looked at it when I was a trustee, and I brought this up to the highway and to the trustees to look at this, and thank you for doing it. Also, there's a lot of water that comes down off Washington Avenue too, that dirt road. It's a high-use boat ramp. A lot of local people use it, and the baymen use it.
It's an important project. It would be great for us to work together. It really could be that much better. And again, all of these little projects that we're all working on together, when you add up the sum of everything that we're doing, I think maybe you can see some good improvements on our waterways in our lifetimes. That's the hope.
I think so, and thank you for coordinating with the
thank
Highway
you.
Department.
It's a pleasure working with you all. It's a pleasure working with the Highway Department. I mean, the public expects us all to coordinate for the greater good, and I think it really has been working well, so just keep it going.
Thank you, President Horowitz. Thanks, Matt. Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom for that presentation? Kevin?
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, is there anybody on Zoom for that last presentation?
No one on Zoom.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so moving on, we are still in the non-point source abatement project category. This is number 10, Quogue Street and Post Lane and Neomog Lane Roundabout Rain Gardens. This is proposed by the Village of Quogue. It is a project type of remediation. It impacts various watersheds in the Quogue area, and the requested funding is $539,050.
Bob Truhold, Mayor of the Village of Quogue. Thank you all for letting me present today.
Welcome back.
This is the project you have before you. This is a series of 3 rain gardens. The most important or most impactful is the one at the circle up right at the foot of the bridge crossing the canal. Currently, all of that water from the bridge, Post Lane, Neomog, collects in at that circle. It's the water flow, and it runs untreated through outflows into the canal. The CPF has we're very grateful, has funded other rain garden projects in the village. This is the 3rd year I'm before you seeking funds. Just a little bit of history. The first project was funded 2 years ago. It was completed this past year, and it collects water that's running down Old Country Road that was running into the ice pond at the Wildlife Refuge. That was completed last fall and has been very successful. It really has. We don't have statistics yet, but Nelson Pope is working with us to monitor it, and it's been very successful. We're about to go out to bid on 3 other projects that were funded last year's grants. It takes a while to get the actual detailed plans put together. They're now done. That will, one of the projects is similar to what Scott Horwitz just presented. It's for a boat ramp at the end of Quaquanantuck. Similarly, a lot of water runs down Quaquanantuck, and we're proposing a series of rain gardens, permeable pavers and all to collect that water, and at the same time do some improvements to the boat ramp. Coming to the current project, I won't go to too much detail because I know you're familiar with the concept, but Quogue has all these fingers of creeks, some underground rivers that all flows down into the various Ogden Pond, Quantuck Bay, into the canal. So we've been working with Nelson Pope and Cornell Cooperative and others to identify areas to put in bioswales, to put in collection points so that the water that collects in storm, when it rains or when there's flooding, will be caught, percolated down, and treated so it does not run straight into the bays. So this is, this year we're proposing 3 different areas, 2 on Quogue Street where a lot of water collects. It's low areas. There are outflows that go into Ogden Pond in one place, into Quantuck Bay in the other, and as I said, at the Post Circle that runs into the canal. So that's why we're here, and we would greatly appreciate continued support from the CPF so that the village can contribute to improving the water.
A lot of people don't realize how important rain gardens are in swales. That's one of the first things when the water comes down the street, or if something gets flooded and it goes down into the rain garden or into the swale. What is that water bringing? A cigarette butt, some garbage, whatever. It's a lot easier to clean it out of a rain garden or a swale than clean it out of the bay or in the wetlands. Absolutely. That's why people don't realize how important this is.
It's very basic technology, but it's proven to be very effective.
Yeah.
Get a lot of bang for the buck.
People say, it collects, this is all full of garbage. They're doing its job. That's what they're there for.
So I supported these projects. I'll continue to support these projects. I just have a comment on a prior project by the Quogue Wildlife Refuge. The curbing that was installed there left no shoulder, and it's not mountable by wildlife. They're 90-degree curbs, so they're not mountable curbs. So any wildlife that's crossing that area, it kind of gets caught up in the curbing there. And if you look at the curbing, it is just black from tire rubber because there's no way to move over to get out of the way when big trucks come down that road. So it's just something to be cautious of in the future on those projects when they are on heavily traveled roadways like that. Otherwise, it looks beautiful, and I know the Quad Wildlife Refuge maybe wasn't that thrilled with losing a large portion of their parking, but.
They lost 6 spaces, so I think
Yeah.
you know, the net improvement on water quality there was a cost there. And the comment about the curbing, we've definitely taken into account. I think the current projects, there won't be a need for curbing, so we've also improved some of the signage to get people to walk on the parking lot side. We learned from some of the.
Well, I mean, it's vastly improved when you first came and presented, and you wanted the rain gardens, but didn't really have a plan, and it's nice to see it all laid out now.
And thanks to Mrs. Davis and others for actually introducing us in the first place to Nelson Pope, because that's definitely improved our education in terms of how to implement these projects throughout the village. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you to the council.
Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Thank you.
All right, next we have number 11, reducing groundwater nitrogen input into to Sagaponic Pond's western shoreline. This is a project sponsored by the Peconic Land Trust. The project type is remediation. The proposed water quality improvement is the watershed of Sag Pond, and the requested funding amount is $568,852.
Hello, I'm Dr. Molly Graffam from Cornell Cooperative Extension, and today I'm here on behalf of Peconic Land Trust and Cornell to present our proposal for reducing groundwater nitrogen input to the Sagaponic Pond western shoreline. And this has been a multi-phase project which really started back in 2021 and 2022 when the Peconic Land Trust asked Cornell and Ron Paulson with Coastline Evaluation to evaluate the groundwater discharge zones in Sag Pond. And then the town provided funding to do site characterization at key properties around the pond to identify which areas were appropriate for permeable reactive barriers. And Sag Pond is a high priority water body according to the Suffolk County Subwatershed Plan and according to the town WQIP, so we've been focusing a lot of effort in this area. Since then, we've also received town funding, thanks to you, for the design and install of a PRB on the eastern shoreline of Sag Pond, and I'm happy to report that we recently received a DEC permit for that barrier, and we're currently finalizing the timeline for the installation with the contractor, and it's set to be installed this year, by the end of the year. So the project before you today is for the design and installation of a permeable reactive barrier to treat the water coming from the northwestern part of the Sag Pond watershed, specifically at 281 Highland Terrace, the groundwater flowing beneath that property. And Chris just gave like a really good background about how PRBs work and what they are, so you already heard all of that, but basically the western side of this watershed is larger and more water is coming from this western side at a higher rate than we saw at the eastern side. So this is a really high priority region for the watershed. There's many homes in the area generating septic waste, applying fertilizers, and as well as this, there's a golf course directly up gradient of this northwestern part of the watershed. So we believe that we're intercepting nitrogen-rich groundwater from the homes, from potentially the golf course, and then there's active agricultural properties in this northwest part of the watershed as well. And it's all kind of culminating and entering the watershed through the groundwater traveling below this property. And over 30% of the samples that we collected had nitrogen over 10 milligrams per liter, and I point that out because this is very significant. That is the EPA drinking water standard, so we found over 30% of the samples were above the EPA drinking water standard. And it's also well above the average conditions for our upper glacial aquifer, and it's about at this site, we found about 10 to 14 times higher than what would be considered pristine groundwater, so significantly elevated concentrations. And this barrier, we are assuming if we get 75% nitrogen reduction, and the dimensions are about 300 feet long by 40 feet deep, this would remove just over 900 pounds of nitrogen per year from entering Sag Pond. And one of the beautiful things about this type of tool, the permeable reactive barrier, is that it requires minimal maintenance, no energy input after installation. It relies on natural microbes and local materials. And then the best part, I'd say, is that the PRB can remove nitrate from any type of source. So regardless of the source, whether it's septic, whether it's fertilizers from ag or residential, as long as it's in the form of nitrate, the PRB will remove that nitrogen. And that's what we found here at this site, is completely nitrate. So it's really good for a PRB. These are also especially useful for Sag Pond because of the way that Sag Pond, its shape. It's very long and narrow. So the shoreline, the length of the shoreline is like disproportionately higher compared to some of the other ponds that have a more rounder shape. This pond has like a very long and narrow shape, so it's a lot of shoreline where groundwater is entering. And this specific 300-foot region, like I mentioned, we anticipate moving over 900 pounds of nitrogen in this region. Just wanted to mention as well that the Peconic Land Trust has been committed to matching public funds with private donations. So far, they've been using privately raised funds to support things that CPF typically doesn't support, like research and longer-term monitoring. And currently, in this proposal, we're asking the board to support the design and installation of the 300-foot-long PRB at the edge of the Highland Terrace property. Peconic Land Trust has also been coordinating with Perfect Earth on educating homeowners about their landscaping practices, and working with the Center for Clean Water Technology and the Watershed IA manager to collectively tackle all of the different components of improving water quality on a watershed scale. And I just wanted to mention lastly that the town board of Southampton funded that innovative bulkhead PRB, which Chris showed a few pictures of in his presentation, and that was funded in 2018. That really spurred all of the momentum for these subsequent PRB projects. So I just really wanted to say thank you, and we appreciate your support in the past, and we continue to move forward with these successful projects to improve Southampton water bodies. And we'll continue to report back to you about the results. Any questions?
It seems that, so the design hasn't not yet been created. A lot of the other applicants, that was their match, that they paid for the design and then came to us for funding for the actual installation.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see that in this application.
Yes, we're asking for support for the design and installation, so that's what the CPF funds would go towards. And the match in this case that the Peconic Land Trust has been providing has been in the form of PRB lab research and then monitoring. They recently contracted with Cornell and with Coastline Evaluation to do a long-term monitoring plan of Sag Pond, and so that's all privately raised donations, and that would be part of monitoring the PRBs that get installed at this water body.
The committee recommended that they said the scope of the monitoring and the estimated costs were not provided. Is that something that can be provided to the town?
Yeah, the Peconic Land Trust plans on supporting those costs. Typically, we've been monitoring these PRBs for 2 to 5 years after they've been installed, and typically quarterly in the first year and maybe biannually in subsequent years. So those costs can be provided.
And then you'd be able to provide the results to the town as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else have any questions? Oh.
I know Scott Horowitz, President of the Trustees of the Sagaponic Pond, another water body that we own and we manage, obviously. I know there's been a lot of extensive testing going on there ahead of this, because I've sat through many presentations looking at where the hot spots are per se, where the inflows are. So I know there's been a tremendous amount of time invested into leading up to this point, where you're going to figure out how to intercept this from getting into our waterway. So these things get a little bit complex, but from my view, from what I've seen with what they want to do here, they've got a lot into this in terms of the ground truthing of how and where to do this. And again, when we're taking pressure off of our water body, I think it's a good thing. So work together, we'll figure it out.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin, is there anybody who wishes to speak about that project?
No one on Zoom.
Thank you.
All right, second to last, this is number 12. This is the trustee property restoration, head of Penny Pond. This is proposed by the town trustees. The project type is remediation. The improvement is proposed to Penny Pond as well as Shinnecock Bay, and the requested funding amount is $387,000.
Getting your steps in today.
I was going to say the same thing. This is good. This is good, and it's public too, so nobody can deny, right? So this project, again, is another example of us all working together, because I know you all have a great project that's going to be going on right next to this. This used to be the Bel Air Cove, which I know was a kind of a big problem for a long period of time. We own the property right next door, and it's been a bit of an eyesore and an issue for this community. I kind of feel like, this property owned by the Southampton Town Trustees has been getting abused for quite a while. It's just not right. I think that if you will, fund this and work with us on this, we will be a nice, holistic project, adjoining right into what it is that you want to do with this low sill bulkhead and habitat restoration, cleaning up the whole area, making a better situation there with the drainage that, you've got.
Floods, that would hope the whole parking lot, where this is floods when it rains.
Correct, and we could clean that up and just make a beautiful passive park with nice kayak racks, clean up the whole bulkheading area with low sill, do some reclamation dredging, get that muck, that's right up against there out of it, and just really make a great passive park facility for this community and clean up that portion of the waterway and stop the abuse, quite frankly. Okay? So to me, it's a no-brainer. The community, I think, will really, really greatly benefit from this. I hope that you see it that way. And again, I can't say it enough. If we can just keep the momentum going in working together, whether it's us and the town board and the highway, the villages. I mean, we have great working relationships with the villages in getting things done. And a lot of the problems that we're dealing with, they're monumental problems, and you chip away at them one at a time. You've got a very engaged and knowledgeable water quality committee, and we're very lucky to have that. So much, talent and ability and experience. Take advantage of it for the greater good. Let Matt say what he's got to say. We do a lot of work together here, and we're getting a lot done.
So Matt Jedlicka again from LK McLean Associates. So this project kind of morphed into a different project once we got underway with the former Bel Air Cove property, which is now being referred to as the Penny Pond Park property. So the Penny Pond Park property is a full restoration of that parcel. Native meadows, bioswales, all sorts of native plantings, and just to try to restore that property back to something that can be used by the public as far as a passive park and access to the water. So when we initially started looking at the trustees parcel, which is really just, it's not set up as a parking lot, but people use it as a parking lot. There's trash from the station, all sorts of stuff going on there. Initially, we thought some sort of drainage mitigation, but then we decided what we would do is try to morph it into the same thing we're doing at the Penny Pond Park and just wrap that right around into the trustees parcel. So the idea is to remove all impervious material. There's an existing roadway that's under there. There's flooding issues that occur, so try to mitigate the flooding with bioswales, remove all the asphalt and sub-base and all that stuff, replenish that with some good soils, and then replant it. Take the low sill bulkhead that we're doing for Penny Pond Park and just do a return and wrap that and then tie into the station's bulkhead. So the low sill bulkhead is a way to get some wetland plantings down there. It's to soften the hardened shoreline a little bit. It allows the high tide to go over the top of that bulkhead and get into the area, and then it allows it to drain out.
Also help clean the water there.
Helps clean the water. Some ancillary dredging, because there's a lot of material that has come down from that trustees portion due to flooding that's filled in the end of the creek there. So the idea is to try to remove some of that material as well. So it would make a really great project even better to have it tie into the Penny Pond Park. We're going to fence off the station, so the eastern property line will be fenced off, and so will the northern property line. So there'll be no parking access. All parking will be on the Penny Pond Park side.
And the plantings along the low sill bulkhead will survive the washing of
It's
the
all
water in and
wetland
out?
plantings, yeah.
Native vegetation designed for that purpose.
You probably could have Cornell speak for that, because they helped design it.
Yeah, there's been a few low sill bulkheads around the town that have been done successfully with wetland plantings that do survive. And the general idea is to have the salt tolerant plantings that like to get wet.
You got to get your elevations set correctly so that it comes in and out. So there's a lot of that going on right now. Obviously, we're all going to be going through the permitting with the state DEC. They will have recommendations as well, and we'll be able to make adjustments. Sometimes there's weed poles cut so that it properly drains and floods.
Yeah, so yesterday, I was before the trustees for the Penny Pond Park project, working with Jackie, working on getting the permit for that. That's currently in review with the Army Corps of Engineers, Department of State, Department of Environmental Conservation. So the idea is, like, whatever happens with that, it'll be the same, because it'll be a continuation of Penny Pond Park.
Everybody's got to weigh in.
Everybody's got to weigh in, and we'll make absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's all good, because if you're trying to solve a problem, everybody's got a different perspective or point of view. And professionally, you sort through that. At the end of the day, in theory, you get a much better project. So we'll make the adjustments we have to make, clean it up, and you'll get something good.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
And the community is going to love it a lot better than having a hotel or whatever was there before.
Listen, every time I go down there, I just feel like we're just getting abused, and it's just not right. So it really needs to come. It needs to come to a head and be done.
Did you hear back from any of the application for the permits for the DEC?
Not yet. No comments from the DEC. We got comments from the Army Corps of Engineers. So we're responding to that this week. But no comments back from Department of Environmental Conservation. But at yesterday's trustees meeting, there's a discussion as far as the low sill bulkheads that got put in on Allison, which is the next water body, or the next finger
Creek over
to the east. Right.
Yeah, there's some experience in the area in terms of what elevations were and the success ratios on that. And obviously, if you have some prior knowledge and experience, you utilize that to take a look at the project you're currently working on.
Yeah, that was put in a long time ago.
Right. And you can see, you talk about monitoring. Well, you've got some good data there to look at, make determinations.
Well, thank you. It's a good project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Scott, hang around, you're gonna come back up anyway.
Kevin, is there anybody on Zoom for this last topic?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, thanks.
Great.
All right, last but not least, we have number 13. This is the last public hearing for the water quality grant applications. This is formally entitled Remediation of Legacy Nitrogen Pollution from Sediments in Old Fort Pond. The project type is remediation. The project sponsor is the Town of Southampton trustees. The improvement is to the Old Fort Pond, where the dredging is proposed, and the requested funding is $11,800,000.
Okay. Thank you for that. So we've got a very big ask here. We're fully aware of the fact that mathematically, possibility, okay. Fully.
Should I do my slides first? Just
Why don't you, Dr. Goldberg and I are working on this together, so if you want to do your slides, and then I will.
I feel like it then,
Yeah,
just
please.
the full background, and then I think that'll be, just like we talked about on Friday.
Absolutely. I just want to acknowledge the fact that I know how to do mathematics.
Better than I do. Okay. So this is a proposal that's for a lot of money. And frankly, when the amount came through, this is a quote from Suffolk County, it was a lot more than I expected as well. But what I'm here to talk to you about today is that why this is probably the most unique project to ever come through the town, and why it is incredibly important from an environmental perspective. Next slide. So, we're talking about dredging Old Fort Pond, and we're talking about the environment. So let's talk about what the issues are. Okay, if you look at the source of nitrogen to Old Fort Pond, the largest source is sedimentary nitrogen fluxes. In addition, that pond has been filling in literally for 10,000 years. Right? When the glaciers came and formed Long Island, that pond was in all sand. There are now close to 10 feet of black mud in that pond that has filled it in. So you take the combination of the high rates of nitrogen coming in and the lack of flushing, and what that has led to has been a hotbed for harmful algal blooms and hypoxia in that system on an annual basis. I've been working on that water body since 1997, and we have a data set going back that far on the near annual occurrence of harmful algal blooms and hypoxia that has been devastating to the shellfish and fish community and the whole ecosystem for Shinnecock Bay. And what I'm going to show you is that the occurrences in that pond are a threat to, and have been a threat to, and leading to the environmental degradation of all of Shinnecock Bay. I'll also point out, I want you to look at that number that's up there, 910,000 pounds of nitrogen. You've heard about a dozen projects today, and you've heard about pounds of nitrogen. It's been, a few hundred, a few thousand. This is a 900,000 pound nitrogen remediation that will happen all at once and will be transformative for this ecosystem. Next slide. So let's talk about the environmental impairment of Old Fort Pond. Since 2008, there have been annual occurrences of rust tide blooms. You can see what the water looks like when we get one of these. This is a marine, thankfully not toxic to humans, but is lethal to marine life. And you can see on the image in the upper right there, we grow out oysters in Old Fort Pond, right directly in the water body. Next slide. And so we've had an incident there, for example, where you can see the shells of over 100,000 oysters killed by a single bloom event in a single moment. This was published in the paper in the journal Estuaries and Coasts in 2019. Next slide. As you may know, within the Marine Science Center, we have a flowing seawater lab where we aquaculture on growing out juvenile fish and shellfish. These shellfish are seeded into the town of Southampton waters for restoration purposes. Next slide. When we get a bloom of Coccididium, the rust tide that flows into these flowing seawater, it leads to the mass kill of fish and shellfish overnight. So this picture was taken where we had a full tank of fish. They were doing great. Everybody left for the day. Overnight, the bloom came in, and they were all dead the next day. Next slide. The study in the upper left was published a few years ago in the journal Applied and Environmental Microbiology. And you look at so this is an international peer-reviewed journal, the highest standard there is for science. The map on the upper right shows you the cells, and more importantly, for that rust tide. And you can see a hot spot in Old Fort Pond. We didn't map south of that particular region. And you can see it spilling into Shinnecock Bay. Right? It is the source for the rest of the bay, and the rest throughout the system. We only map the upper portion there. Now, what's more important is the lower panel. Those are what are known as the cysts. Those are the seeds for these blooms. Right? The blooms come back every single year because when the blooms are over, the cells fall to the bottom of the bay and they create these cysts, and they're living there until the next year. And so what you can see is, again, that is the source of rust tides, not just for Old Fort Pond, but for the entirety of Shinnecock Bay. Next slide. Beyond rust tides, the first ever diuretic shellfish poisoning event that led to a closure of shellfish beds in all of New York State occurred in Old Fort Pond in 2019. Again, this is a not just harmful but toxic algal bloom caused by the genus Dinophysis. Next slide. So why are we getting these harmful algal blooms? Well, I had a grant from New York Sea Grant that addressed that, where we did a series of studies in large mesocosms. You can see the tanks there. We filled the mesocosms with one of three things. We added nothing and just added nutrients as a source of, or added liquid nutrients as a source to see what happens to these blooms. We added sand. Now remember, sand is what we want to get down to in Old Fort Pond. And then we added the mud right out of Old Fort Pond. So let's see what happens when you have water from Old Fort Pond and you have mud, or you have sand, or you add nutrients. Next slide. So here's one of those rust tide blooms. If you grow it with mud, the rust tide gets more intense. If you grow it with sand, the blue, it disappears. Next slide. This is a different genus of harmful algal bloom, Alexandrium, that causes paralytic shellfish poisoning because it makes saxitoxin, a toxin that's 1,000 times more potent than cyanide. And again, the same exact result. If you incubate these cells with the mud that's in Old Fort Pond, you get a paralytic shellfish poisoning event that's more intense than it began. But conversely, if you can get down to sand and have sand in the bottom, these blooms go away. This is peer-reviewed science. Next slide. Okay, in addition to the harmful algal blooms, Old Fort Pond experiences hypoxia almost every night in summer, low oxygen conditions. Next slide. And here's chronic monitoring of oxygen on a day-night cycle. Gets quite high during the day, gets low at night. And the question is, does that matter? And we went to address that. Next slide there, you can see we actually fixed that low oxygen conditions by creating an artificial aeration system, bringing those oxygen levels up. So the question is, does the low oxygen that occurs in Old Fort Pond every night matter? Next slide. And the answer is absolutely. The low oxygen in Old Fort Pond is leading to a significant decline in the growth rates of the surviving oysters that survive those harmful algal blooms. And the plot on the right shows you the increase in growth rates you can get from bivalves is directly proportional to the low oxygen conditions that you get in the pond. The low oxygen is driven by those muddy sediments that's sucking oxygen out of the water. Next slide. I also want to highlight the important restoration work that's been done out of this marine lab in recent years. So this is something called the Shinnecock Bay Restoration Program. And this is, again, a peer-reviewed publication. You can see all the list of authors there. Next slide. This has led to one of the most dramatic improvements in hard clam populations ever witnessed in New York State. You know, there are restoration approaches where you put out seed clams, you seed tiny clams, and we've quantified that. The survival rates of seed clams within 1 year is less than 1%. Okay, so it doesn't work. For this particular project, we didn't put out seed clams, but we put out adult clams. We created something known as spawner sanctuaries. We created hydrodynamic models to know exactly where the offspring of the adult clams would go. And so what you can see is that over time, when we began the program, this plot shows you the densities of hard clams across Shinnecock Bay, right? And it's more than a 20-fold increase. Next slide. More importantly, and actually being honest, unexpectedly, we also led to, had the landings of hard clams in Shinnecock Bay increase by 35-fold since we began this project. So, and we're monitoring, in addition, the landings all across the South Shore estuaries. This isn't happening anywhere else, right? The increases aren't happening like this in Riches Bay or in Great South Bay. It's happening where we've done the restoration, and it's happening exactly where our hydrodynamic models told us it would. And if you look at the lower plot, The increase is in small clams. So these aren't clams that have been forever, but these are ones that are created by those spawner sanctuaries. Next slide. In addition, concurrently, there's been an increase of more than 1.6 square kilometers of seagrass beds. You can see the before and after, and we've been concurrently both doing seagrass restoration, and we've had adult hard clams that have changed the turnover rate of the bay from months to less than 2 weeks. Next slide. Okay, so you can just pop up all the text, so just maybe one more, and one more. So I want to emphasize the increase in hard clam landings that I've just shown you has been worth $4.5 million to baymen in the town of Southampton. And again, you could only harvest those clams if you're a resident of the town, right? So the restoration that's happening there is benefiting directly the town. In addition, there are economic multipliers that you can put forth. If you add those harvests and you look into things like wholesaling, you look at restaurants, the impact is significantly greater than that. Beyond that, the hard clam levels are higher than we've seen since 1980. And the hard clam levels, and that goes for all across the bay. Next slide. Oh, and the last one is that if you look at the seagrass meadows and you look at ecosystem values, it's also millions of dollars for the town. So what does this have to do with Old Fort Pond and dredging? The bottom line is we can't do our restoration work anymore because we can't get our vessels out of Old Fort Pond except on the highest of high tides. So the current state of the pond is actually inhibiting, as another environmental issue, it's slowing the rate at which we can perform restoration in the town of Southampton. Next slide. And just to show you some images of why that is, you can see the shoaled nature. And again, those are muddy sediments that are fluxing out nitrogen, and they're sediments that are, and you can just go through the next one. You can see the exposure there on the shoal. You can see it there, and then there's one more. Right? And so that, if we're on a low tide or anywhere close to a low tide, if we're not on the high tide, the vessels can't get out to do this restoration work. Next slide. Okay. Just some background on dredging in general. This is a letter from Suffolk County, as you can see, Charlie Bartha, who's the commissioner of the Department of Public Works. And in this letter, maybe if you hit it once more there, I think it pops up the fine points, that essentially says, hey, we're Suffolk County and we are going to dredge Old Fort Pond for you. We're going to do the whole thing. We're going to get everything out. We're going to get the equipment there. We're going to hire the contractors. We're going to do all the dredging for that particular system. But as per agreements we have with the towns all the time, the only thing we ask of the town is the town is responsible for disposal of the sediments. Next slide. And this is just showing an example of that. And if you hit it once more, this was signed by Jay Schonerin when he was supervisor. But this is what happens when you dredge. And you can see that the finer point that the town is responsible for the surplus material and the final disposal of that surplus material from dredging. Next slide. Maybe a little out of order, but this is a project that we've been talked about for more than 15 years. Scott and I have been working together. We can, okay, 12 years. But we can talk about the politicians who have come and gone and have worked on this. We can talk about, and in this map, what it shows is all the different locations that we've considered, where maybe we can dredge it, we can put it in this location or that location. In all cases, you can see that's basically in a neighborhood, and we require a lot of pumping. And for the 3 northern sites, you have to figure out how to get it over Montauk Highway as you're doing that, and which becomes incredibly expensive. We also considered the trustees' parking lot there, but it's just not big enough to do it, and it would have to be done in such small pieces at a time that you'd have to do it over many years, and it would end up costing more over time because you have to get all the dredge material and, all the infrastructure for dredging to be done 1 year, and then the next year, and the next year, so it'd be a multi-year project. Next slide. If you look at, there's a couple of core samples of that black muddy sediment, and just so you understand this, by law, these sediments must be disposed of out of state. There's 3 classes of sediments according to DEC, and just boiling it down. There's sand, you can put it wherever you want, basically put it on beaches. There's Class B material that could be used for beneficial use. This is Class C. It's not because it's dirty, it's just because it's muddy sediment, and by the laws of physics, attracts metals to the point where it's above standards and has to be trucked off site. And so that's why this ends up being expensive for disposal. Next one.
When you
And-
say it attracts metals, where are the metals coming from?
From seawater. So the seawater's in, and so you could do the experiment where if you have sand, same seawater, you could put with sand and same seawater with mud, and essentially, and you can have the same level of trace metals to start with, but because the mud is made up of fine-grained sediments, it has more surface area, it has also more organic matter, and it just really, literally sucks in the metals right out of the seawater. So it's like impossible to have black muddy sediment and have it not be Class C, according to state regs.
Thank you.
You know, there was a question about, oh, well, this is just a shallow, 10-foot dredged area that could fill in. That's not true. This is, this would be hundreds of feet wide and would be engineered in such a way that this wouldn't need to be done again, I'm going to say, as long as I'm alive. This is going to be decadal, I think, as far as a change. This is not a little cut of a channel. Next slide. And so I think this is my last one. Just say that this is unlike the environmental benefit here. I would argue is unparalleled as far as where there's no other place you could do a dredging project where you'd have the environmental benefits you'd see here. What I've just showed you is the extreme nature of harmful algal blooms there, and that the impact they're having on the marine life there, and the unrefutable scientific evidence that these harmful algal blooms, not only they're just being, I can say, oh, they're driven by nitrogen. I showed you the experiments. Put mud in there, these events get more intense and more toxic. Put sand in there, they go away, right? And remember, dredging is going to remove those cysts that are already in there, right? So this is something that you can't be said about anywhere else. We also have the very clear evidence that the low oxygen in Old Fort Pond is leading to depressed survival and growth rates of bivalves. And again, we have all the environmental restoration that's going on, and I've showed you the dollar amounts. Millions of dollars put into the town of Southampton economy from the successful restoration, and that's slowing down now because of the inability to get the vessels out. I think that's my last slide. And so I think Scott will now give
Thank you, Dr. Gopler.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Gopler. It's been a pleasure working with you. I say 12 years. I know the discussion is probably really 50 years, right? But
Hey, Scott, I think it's been as long as they've been talking about new town courts,
yes,
about 30 years.
very long time.
Every town board just kicks it down the road.
This was a initiation project for new trustee Horowitz, and that's why I say 12 years. Yeah, you go to those meetings, and I recall being at those meetings with past Supervisor Jay Schneiderman up in Yaphank at the DPW, right? So this has been going on for a long time, but myself, as a persistent little guy, I never let things go. I just keep right on going to get things done. Now, everything that Dr. Gobler just outlaid there is why we became a hope spot, right?
Yeah.
Mission Blue, Shinnecock Bay, a hope spot, because of all of the collaborative efforts of everybody in the room to get this, restoration project and this resurgence of shellfish. We worked with all the stakeholders, the baymen, local communities. Why? We had to close off areas of our bay for sanctuary. We had to hold off the state of New York for proper contracting because, as Dr. Gobler properly pointed out, we reserve commercial harvest of shellfish for town residents only, right? So we had to do all of this heavy lift to get this to work. And with their study of how currents move throughout our entire watershed and system, this occurrence happened where we expected it, right? So there's been a tremendous amount of effort and work and science, and again, I point to the intelligence that we have in the room to be able to get things done. And I will tell you that this is a unique set of circumstances, world-class lab, world-class people, and a system that needs to function properly altogether. This is not a precedent setting for dredging at large. This is a specific type of an environmental project that has aspects. Look, I know how difficult it is to get dredging done for navigation. I want to say thank you very much. I was the guy that letter was addressed to, from Bartha. The dredge crew of Suffolk County works very, very well with us to get the maximum amount of dredging for navigation purposes, public safety and navigation for the people of the town of Southampton. And I'm here to tell you, as president of the trustees, it's very hard to get those projects done with all the regulatory authorities and everything else. And when you have the county of Suffolk willing to spend $3+ million in engineering and dredging to see the worthwhile of a project from a public benefit standpoint, that's very serious, because there are a lot of creeks and a lot of areas of this town that do not rise to that definition and cannot be done. And it's problematic because they need help, they need dredging, but that problem's not going away. In this instance, we have the county already on board. Managing expectations, as I acknowledged immediately, this is a lot of money. When we started talking about this project over a decade ago, the numbers were not that drastic. These are estimates. Perhaps maybe it will be less. We all acknowledge the fact that we have some responsibilities here in terms of the trucking and disposal of this material. And I've said time and time again that we need to work together to be successful, from the federal government, the state, right on down. In my opinion, what we need to do here, all of us in this room, all of us, and I want to thank Jackie Fenlon as well, she's doing a great job, and you folks on the committee. We need to figure out what it is that we can do, even if it's in the future. We need to say, all right, look, mathematically, we have all these great projects, we have septic rebates, we have all of this going on. We have to stop kicking this can down the road. It's going to get more expensive, and furthermore, the problems that Dr. Gobler's talking about, they're not going to go away. They're going to get worse. And I think the sensible thing to do here is figure out what we can do and put that on the table with everybody and say, Suffolk County, thank you very, very much. Dredge crew, county executive, Ed Roman, thank you very much. You guys are going to do it. Here's what we can do. We can do this, and then we work together to figure out how we get the rest of the funds to have a successful project and make this happen. Quite frankly,
Scott, if I may actually just intervene just really briefly, having worked in the Suffolk County Legislature, I can speak to the fact that, getting something like this on the dredge schedule for DPW is quite a task. And it certainly is an indication of county leadership currently under Ed Romaine, and thanks to Charlie Bartha as well. My understanding is that in previous conversations with the former legislator Bridget Fleming and DPW and former Supervisor Jay, and Chris, maybe you could speak to this, there were discussions about taking those dredge spoils. It might be an easy way to kind of get those. So I'm just trying to find solutions here. The taking those dredge spoils and putting them on a barge, is that still?
That's the current project. That is the current project, because we had, as time went on and as we went to these meetings and as things got brought onto the table and then all the objections came on in terms of handling it,
right. We
were going to tear the gym out of the college and put all the material there. We were going to put it in the front. We were going to put it.
Yeah.
It's not going to work with all the engineering that has to be done. At this point in time, I will tell you, we are at the closest precipice for us ever actually having a project that could get done. And I agree with Dr. Gobler. You forget, for years you won't have to deal with this. It is professionally engineered. The state DEC and everybody else looks at the scopes of the land, of the adjoining properties and the adjoining wetlands. And if the county sees that there's going to be some problem with an adjoining property, and I know Councilman Pell can attest to this, they're not going to do the dredging project. Okay? They look at everything carefully. This is the best option that we have. The material is such that it has to leave the state. Okay? So, it's been looked at heavily. It's just going to continue to get more of a problem and more expensive. I would like to work with you all, and Jackie Fenlon and her staff have done a terrific job in figuring out what it is that we can do so that we can put it on the table, partner with the county, and then look to the state and federal government and say, we have a huge issue here, tremendous public health and safety problems and so forth, and figure out how we get this done. But we need to commit something. We can't just stop and no activity is just not an option at this point in time, in my opinion. And again, I've been working on this for 12 years with Dr. Gobler, and I know people worked on it before me.
So I just want to stop you for 1 second there. As somebody who I'm sure as Bill can attest to this too, I mean, I've been stuck up to my knees having a panic attack in Weesuck Creek and Hetty Creek in February because of the mud and the muck. But this question of dredging and removing spoils, we've had this conversation and we've gone around time and time again, and we have town locations that we are downsizing boats in because we will not use water quality funds to dredge those sites even one time, because it starts to set a precedent, and then where do you turn it off? And I understand, and I hear the environmental benefits to this, but we have turned down our own projects and our own marinas and our downsizing navigational, channels and boats that can utilize those marinas because we don't want to open this door, because once you open the door to removing dredge spoils, I mean, this is $12 million. You are taking every other water quality project in the town of Southampton off of the table. We're talking about IAs, sanitations, PRBs, rain guard, everything else that we do, we can suck up with dredging. And I think anybody can come and give you reasons why it's a good idea to do it, and I hear them and I appreciate them. But where is the state and where is the county on the disposal? I mean, this cannot be just on the town of Southampton. This is benefiting a facility that is, benefiting everybody in the state. So,
I mean, can I?
Sure, go ahead.
Speak to that? Yeah, I fully understand that. Okay. But I think this is a little bit different. I don't view it as precedent setting. First of all, it's the only water body, the only creek that we have a world-class laboratory sitting at the end of, where the state of New York has already invested in excess of $5 million at. I think it's just a matter of finesse in how this is handled, in my opinion. And I agree with you, 100%, $12 million. And that's why I said it when I first got up here. I said, I know all about math, okay? But zero is not an option. I think that what you say makes a lot of sense. You got to look at everything else that you need to do. You need to recognize the fact that not every creek is going to rise to getting a letter from Charlie Bartha saying we're going to accept this project, okay, and we're going to put county money into it. It's very hard, believe me. And I've been a licensed captain, 100-ton master for a long time, and I had to move my own vessel out of Weesuck Creek over to the other side of the bay. Why? Because I needed to be able to get that vessel across the bay without churning the mud the whole way.
And that's a highly impaired water body.
It's a highly impaired water body. Again, we've got projects and problems throughout the entire town, as you know. This one here has a tremendous amount of momentum, and it has the fact that there's been a substantial amount of money invested by the state of New York in it, and that the county has already committed. Those are two aspects that any of those other water bodies do not have, and the lab, plus the fact of how it greatly is going to affect all the restoration that we've worked so hard to become a hope spot, and the millions of dollars that trickle through our economy from the town bayment into the restaurants, so on and so on and so on. So this is unique. I don't view it as precedent setting. But to your point, you're 100% correct. I think what we need to do sensibly as a township is to determine an amount of money that we can comfortably do and still fund other projects that need to be done. And it doesn't have to be right now, but it has to be in a reasonable time, 26, 27, to say, listen, we get it. We have responsibilities here. We can do 3 million. We can do 4, whatever that number is that you folks, and you have intelligent people here that are working on this. And I'm sure that they can take a look at what has been sequestered, take a look at something reasonable, understand that this problem is not going to go away. I think they have to figure out how much you can comfortably commit to this one, and then we all work together, myself as president of the trustees and all of you, work to go back to representatives that we have at the state of New York and the federal government and say we have a huge problem, and I'm sure Dr. Gold will be right there by my side, okay? We have a huge problem, and we need funding, and we can only do this, and we're going to do this, and the county's committed, and then we build it together I don't see any other way, because I agree with you. It would wipe it out entirely. But I think that by putting nothing on the table, it's not an option. I don't think that's a showing of good faith. Something has to go on the table at this point in time, in my opinion, and then we build from there. I would leave it to your expertise and what you want to do. Look, that's my advice. I've got a tremendous amount of time, energy, effort into getting this for our community to this point, okay? And I'm being honest with you. I think if we put something on the table, we can continue to build on that, and we can be successful. We've never been this close to getting this thing done. I sincerely disagree. I do not see this as precedent setting. I'm a guy that gets phone calls all day, every day. I need this dredged, I need that dredged, and I suffer from it myself. I had to move my own vessel, okay? I hear you loud and clear. This is a unique set of circumstances. I believe we have articulated that. I'm just asking you to figure out what you can do. I hear what you can't do, so we can continue to move forward with this. If I can answer any more questions, because I've been at this for a long time, you know?
I agree with you, Scott.
Thank you.
And I also agree with Councilman McNamara. We have to start, save a little bit now for next year and the year after. We have to go back to the state. If the state can afford to fix the windmill, they can afford to put some more money into this. Same thing with the county. We have to gather all our sources and see what we can come up with. Like we talked at the meeting on Wednesday.
Yes.
At the college. We have to try.
Right.
And that's what the people want.
That's what they want, and I can't emphasize it enough. We have a lot of energy and a lot of talent among us. We need to utilize it for the greater good, and we can put something on the table and work together, and I really feel, you made an excellent point. They've already got $5 million plus invested in this thing, right? So, look, we can't do the whole 11 million. And you know what? Maybe the numbers will come in less. These are darts that we're throwing, utilizing contractors that do this project for the Army Corps, and they're taking a look at the engineering and the trucking. Maybe when it finally goes out to competitive bid, it comes in at less, right? That's notwithstanding the fact we need to figure out what we can comfortably put on the table to move this forward.
I would just say that I think based on the presentation from Dr. Gobler, I think there's enough there. I mean, you know, Dr. Gobler cited some very extensive published research that demonstrates a water quality necessity, which I know that is sort of at the core of perhaps the consternation and discussions about whether or not we should or we can. I think what Dr. Gobler demonstrated today is very clear. I think it shows that we can dedicate those kinds of funds to something of this sort. I think maybe not 11 million, but something. And I would just say that we need to take that seriously. And I want to say to you, Scott, that it takes a lot of courage to come up here, and every subject that we've had discussions on, you've made some comments. I know how hard you work, and it's just indicative of your leadership, and people are really lucky to have you as a trustee.
I appreciate you saying that, and it's a pleasure working with you all. I really care about this community. I'm doing what I can.
We know you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
And, yeah, thank you, Scott. That was very nice. Professor Gobler, do you think you could just summarize briefly how this can be distinguished from other dredging projects?
Yes.
I mean, to play off of.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was going to stand up and say it, but I thought Scott did such a good job. That was an inspirational.
He's been practicing
incredible,
for.
Scott. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's the unique nature is the number of environmental threats and insults and impairments that are happening there. The documentation of the direct cause being the sediments in that particular system. And then, you know, the marine lab that's there, again, we're working to improve the water quality of the town of Southampton, and it turns out that restoration work is actually putting money into the into the economy of the
Dr.
town.
Gobler, on the notion of the sediments, right?
Yeah.
If there were ever in the future to be some sort of debate on whether or not a dredging project, can or cannot receive CPF funding, experts can confirm the sediment, the nature of the sediment to sort of make the determination that there is a water quality impairment of some kind. And
Correct. And again, like the evidence that we've got, the source of the harmful algal blooms is in the sediment. That's where it's living. And so you actually could be getting rid of those forever by dredging that out as well. So I think that, the alignment of the body of evidence makes it unique, and then the restoration work that's getting in there makes it unique. And again, we've got an incredible opportunity, Suffolk County saying, we made the list, and they're willing to do the whole thing for free. But just again, emphasizing, every time they do a dredging project, they have this agreement with the town. They say, we'll do the dredging, you will take care of the disposal. That's the way they operate. So, and I'll also say, playing off what Scott also said, if the town can put forth a substantial amount of money, I pledge to go to the state and to work with state representatives to get state funds to get us to the finish line. I'm not, any support I would be very grateful for, right? And again, like the other project, not getting any money from this. This is just to get the project done, right? But I pledge to work, and I can say that with good faith, because that's what Scott and I have been doing. And we will work with the university and the government relations to the university to go to the state and see what we can get from the state part as well. Again, the agreement that the county, the legal agreement the county makes, and they make the town sign on, is that, yes, town, you will pay for it. But again, I agree. I totally agree with everything you said to me. I don't want to see the program bankrupt over this whole thing. So, playing off of Scott's idea, do what you can now, and maybe we can factor in it over the years, and I will go, and Scott will work with me, and the university will go to the state, and we'll see what we can get from the state to do this. But like I said, we've never been closer, and we really want to, we think this can be game changer. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for your time today.
Thanks.
Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom for this project or any of the other projects?
No one on Zoom.
Oh, Kevin, I didn't hear you. Is there anyone on Zoom?
No one's on Zoom.
Thank you.
Actually, wait, I have one hand up.
I just wanted to
Just
thank
one
you
hand
all
up.
again. A lot of work went into this recommendation.
Kevin, did you say have one hand up?
Yeah, I have Jen back on.
Jen?
Oh, Jen Mezziano. There also, I'm not sure if there's any comments in the audience right now.
There's no cards, I don't think.
No cards.
Hi again, it's Jen Messiano. Hi, I'm Grants Coordinator for the Village of Sag Harbor. I wanted to share responses to questions that were raised earlier in the public hearing. Supervisor Moore had asked about the supplemental funding that was awarded in 2023. I wanted to clarify that amount was based on the fact that the village had applied for a state grant in that year that was not subsequently funded. So that grant request amount was based on the estimated project costs at the time. And this year's request is based on the actual bid amounts that the village has received. The second response is to a question raised by Councilwoman McNamara. She asked whether the yachts use the pump-out facility. The answer to that I received from the village administrator is yes, and that the dockage fees cover the pump-out costs. The grant request amount is tied to the overall increase in boating activity combined with the increased contractual costs associated with hauling the waste further west, since Riverhead no longer accepts the marine septic waste. So I just wanted to follow up to share those two responses to close out the open items from the hearing.
Thank you for the follow-up, Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to thank you guys again for having a special meeting, and I know you guys all want to break.
At our next
Yeah.
meeting.
Thank you for all you did with all
Thank
this,
you.
and
You
the
and your
committee.
staff.
We're
Yeah,
so
and-
grateful.
Yeah, thank you again. So
Teamwork.
we have Emily Estration, our senior environmental
Emily,
analyst who works on water quality. We've got Stephanie Gavis and Anthony Graves. So thank you so much.
Can I make
Appreciated.
can I make a suggestion, just because, well, we're still having this discussion. I've never now, in all the years that we've been doing this, I've never had outside public comment on any of these projects, because I don't think the community understands the projects until we do the presentations. So next year, would it be possible to do the presentations at a work session, and then just do the public hearing, and have you say what the project is, and then see if there's public comment, because now the public has had an opportunity to hear from the people that are proposing the projects?
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't any public input, actually, other than the grant writer.
We've never had any. I know what I mean, like, they present their projects and they explain them, and I think the public is now potentially hearing that, but they're not here to comment because they don't know what they're commenting on. So if we could do it in a work session format, and then just have Jackie basically read what the proposal is, take any public comment at that point, because they will have heard in work session what's being presented.
Each of the
We could even do it over a couple of work sessions.
Well, did you
Just
want
something to think about for next year.
Did you want to close this and leave an open comment period
Can we
too?
do that for 2
We
weeks?
could do that
just
as
for
well.
written?
Yes.
That way people can digest and listen to the recording of today's meeting and ask any questions.
Yes.
All right, so I move to close the public hearing and leave a 2-week comment period, written comment period.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you again, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie, and your team.
And your team.
Yes.
What happened to Dan?
Goes into this. Thank you, guys.
All right, that brings us to public portion. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard? I don't have any cards. Anybody on Zoom? Kevin, for public portion?
No one on Zoom.
All right, then, I move to close public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I move to close the special meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for coming, everyone.